Good afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. It is indeed a Monday edition of Middays with Q, as we like to call it, a Lunes Mentiroso Man Up Monday edition. Rich Quiñones here. 2 hours to play with. We will take up to 6 o'clock straight up on multiple platforms. Got some show news and notes to get into later on today on this 11th of August, 2025. Lloyd Vance in the 5 o'clock hour. Busy show. A lot of baseball stuff coming down, a lot of NFL news and notes to kind of go through. And it was one of those weekends in the NFL where if you're a big believer in, the preseason having any type of meaning, or you have reservations regarding training camp and practices and the preseason, you kind of hit it all. Obviously, from an Eagles standpoint, first and foremost, Landon Dickinson going down is not good. Dickerson going down. The thought is he suffered a meniscus injury. This happened over the weekend. You're talking about, the worst case scenario is a torn Achilles, right? So he's getting additional options. And right now, the MRI, he had that test early Monday morning. So, think about it. Depending on the severity of the injury, he can potentially return to action as little 4 to 6 weeks. If he needs a full repair, that can be 3 to 6 months. So not a good thing, but, very good player, an outstanding offensive lineman. I think, only offensive lineman in Eagles history to make 3 Pro Bowls in his first 4 seasons. So again, that's something to kind of watch. Remember too, tore his Achilles back in 2016 when he was with Florida State. So that's something we'll try to keep you updated on. And I'm sure they're going to try to move forward, maybe start Matt Pryor possibly at the right guard spot. You move Tyler Steen over to the left. So that's from an Eagles front, an Eagles standpoint, which is not going to be a good thing. So we you never want to see guys go down early, right? Especially during training camp, preseason. But we talked a lot about the offense and obviously the offensive weapons, and it really ends and starts, I should say, and ends with that offensive line. And if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan, listen, you're talking about an anchor of that offensive line. So that's never a good thing when you lose a all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber player who, oh, by the way, is also coming off a nice contract extension. So we'll talk to Lloyd about this a little more and get his thoughts in the 5 o'clock hour. A bunch of players, like I said, going down as well and being banged up and hurt. The Miami lost one of their running backs. He's out for the season, a kid from Detroit. That was just a horrible looking play with the neck injury. And, it's good to see that he had some movement. It gets scary when guys go down like that and they get injured. It really does, because you just never know if it's going to be the last play of your career, right? You had the kid from the Titans, another running back who's out for the rest of the preseason. You see a lot of these soft tissue tears, pulls, guys landing awkwardly. You got a lot of weight, a lot of beef. And like I said, never, ever a good thing. They're not going to get rid of the preseason games. They're not going to get rid of training camp. They're not going to get rid of practices. It's just really unfortunate. It really is. So, that kid Norris, that was very scary. He's in concussion protocol. He's doing well. But as far as the games over the weekend, and listen, what did I say on Friday's show? We talked a lot about the quarterback play on Friday's show. And all you're looking to see is like positive from some of these rookie quarterbacks. And I think you saw it from Jackson Dart in New York. And I think you saw it with Sanders in Cleveland. Now, I'm not going to get all overboard like some people are. I said Friday, hey, look, if you're a Jackson Dart, make the most of your opportunity, play within yourself, right? If you are Sanders, take a couple shots, scramble around a little bit, make some plays. You always want to make it tougher for the head coach when it comes to calling your number or who's going to be the encumbered starter in week 1. We already know that Russell Wilson is going to be the starter week 1 for the New York Giants. We already know that. But Dart, made a couple nice plays in that game. He did, and caught my attention. He's an athletic kid. And then Sanders made some really nice plays. I think I said, hey, if he goes 18 of 25 for like a buck 67 and a touchdown and rushes a little bit, that's eye opening. And he did. He did. There was a couple throws he missed, and then there were a couple bad sacks that he took. But I thought he settled in. I really did. I thought he settled in, and he did what we also talked about. Any rookie quarterback, when you have an opportunity to go on a drive, right? And if you remember too, it was, I believe, it was right after, would you get the, I want to say the second drive I thought was probably his most, that was its second touchdown when he threw that 12-yarder. But he converted a couple third down plays, moved around well with his legs. The game will slow down for these guys. Now, he's still not going to be the starter come week one. And I know people want to, just really go overboard with stats and 14 and 23 and a buck 36 and 2 touchdowns, a couple sacks. But he also showed a little bit of that element we talked about, rushing for close to 20 yards. So if you're a Browns fan, that's a good sign for you. That's a really good sign for you if you are a Browns fan and you saw Sanders move around a little bit. And if you're a Giants fan and you watched the game like I did prior to the fights on Saturday, and I watched every snap because I wanted to see how Russell Wilson looked. I wanted to see the offensive line. I wanted to see Carter. I wanted to see Jackson Dart. I wanted to see the running backs get into the mix. I was pleasantly surprised. I really was. That one touchdown toss that Jackson Dart had was gorgeous. It's unfortunate that the Buffalo Bills broadcast of Steve Tasker and Andrew Catalon, they were, glossing up Bills ownership, talking about a new stadium. Bad job by them, right? I mean, we're talking about all these quarterbacks being hyped here and there, but the kid played well. But Russell Wilson, just like Joe Flacco, are going to be their starters respectively to start the season. And both those quarterbacks looked efficient and effective. And that's all you can ask for. That is all. And you get out of there unscathed. You get out of there without getting hurt. That's the main thing. You get out of there without getting hurt. That's really all you're looking to do. Now, interesting enough, so J.J. McCarthy, a little bit of a rough outing, 4 of 7 for 30 yards. And then Sam Howell, the journeyman, 11 of 13 for 106 for Minnesota. He looked pretty efficient and effective as well. He did. He looked pretty efficient. Obviously, Drake May was only in there for the Patriots for a series. I know he threw a couple passes. Washington did not play Jaden Daniels. They had Hartman out there, Josh Johnson. These are veteran guys, especially Josh Johnson. You already know what you're getting from a 39-year quarterback who has been around the block and then some. So we know Jaden Daniels is penciled in, right? He's the franchise quarterback. So you had to look at some of these quarterbacks over the weekend and some of these young guys that we were waiting to see how they would play, how they would potentially perform. I will also add, as we talk about some of these young guys, I think, kind of a mixed bag for Justin Fields, 3 of 4, 42 yards. The kid Martinez got a bunch of the reps, I think threw for about a buck 62. The Jets beat the Packers. So, listen, it's preseason. It's preseason. All you wanted to see is some of these young kids run the offense, go on a scoring drive here and there. That's really all you're looking at. That's it. The kid Joe Milton kind of had a mixed bag too, 17 to 29 for a buck 43 and a touchdown and a pick for Dallas. People were like, all of a sudden, he's a future quarterback. He's a future quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. And that's where I kind of laugh again, pump the brakes. But it's good to see these young quarterbacks getting, again, an opportunity to play, right? An opportunity. And there are some veteran guys that, again, you look around the league and they might be jettisoned if they don't get it together. And some of these young quarterbacks mixed in with the veteran journeyman quarterbacks, they've got an opportunity to wrestle away the starting job. There are a couple spots that we just don't know. Indianapolis, right? We just don't know at this moment. Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson. We don't know. We don't know. That's a situation that's worth monitoring, especially if you're looking for the win totals in these projections, because a lot of people think Indianapolis is not going to be a very good team. I'm one of them. We already know what's set around the rest of the division. Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, Cam Ward. We know what's set in the AFC North with Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cincinnati. We don't know what's set with Cleveland. We know it's set with New England, the Jets, Miami, and Buffalo, and so on and so forth. So you got a couple of teams out there where we just don't know. And your guess is as good as mine. But the young players, it's very easy on a Monday because we always talk about overreaction on a Monday. That's what many do. We look at a player like Jackson Dart, who made a couple nice throws, right? We looked at a player like Shedeur Sanders, again, who made a couple nice throws. I know, Skip Bayless, I don't even know if he's on a network anymore. I don't know what the hell he's doing, but I guess he was ripping the NFL for passing on Sanders, blasting teams, racist fools for passing on Shedeur Sanders. I mean, just shut up already, will you please? Shut the hell up. Nobody wants to hear you talk. They don't. It was a friggin' lousy preseason game. Yes, made some plays. So did a couple of the other young quarterbacks out there. You're in the starting job, then you're really going to be open to criticism. And the funny thing is, like I said, Stefanski right now is, he's got a lot of in the stew. He really does. Because he hasn't mentioned who's going to get the start yet against the Eagles. And he's going to go game by game. And Thursday, he'll probably have a better feel. Now, you also got to remember, Gabriel returns to team drills as well. So he's trying to make an active case, to make that roster for the start of the season. Can he pick it? And then I'll throw another one out there. Again, nobody knows what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson, and you still got Flacco. So bottom line was Sanders goes out a $138, 14 completions, 2 touchdown passes, played well. So for everyone that was sitting there with their asinine statements talking about, set up to fail, didn't seem the case. Now, I'm not going to knee-jerk reaction and say Sanders or Jackson Dart should start week 1 respectively. I'm not going that route. But I did like what I saw from the young signal callers. And in today's NFL, all you got to do is wait for a veteran to get hurt or benched, and you got to step in. You got an opportunity to shine. You got an opportunity to make some plays. De facto says, not going to lie, concern for Dickerson. Your boy Jones can never make TD throw Dart made. That's just, again, that's an asinine comment. Daniel Jones has made some throws in his career. And he also has some wide receivers, i.e. Evan Ingram, who dropped ones that were right in the breadbasket Thursday Night Football against Philadelphia Eagles. So you can't be sold on a quarterback after a couple series in preseason. You can't. You can't. All you're going to do is set yourself up for aggravation and failure. You just can't. You don't know. Nobody knows. These guys can go out and stink up the joint the next time they're out there. They can get the start on a Sunday in week 1 and stink up the joint for 4, 5, 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden get benched. You just don't know. It's nice to see them play well, and it's nice to see them have their moments. And this is what you look for now. Can you duplicate that? Can you take advantage of more reps, more series? And you're going to see some battles too. Running back position, wide receiver position, absolutely. But man, I'm telling you, season can't get here fast enough. NFL season cannot get here fast enough. 4:14 on a Monday. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. As always, we encourage you guys to get social with us. This is Middays with Q. Rich Quiñones here, 4 to 6. This week, we'll also be on our YouTube channel, so we'll have a couple power hours for the YouTube channel as well. Get social with us as well. And, of course, TriX57. Check them out on Facebook and IG and X. Myself, Rich Q on Q, X, IG, YouTube channel, Rich Q on Q, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. 15 past 4 o'clock hour, Lloyd Vance in the 5 o'clock hour. Got some comments coming in on Facebook as well as X. We'll read off the comments on the YouTube channel. So I mentioned NFL heavy today. I want to mix in a little baseball. We'll get you caught up to speed. Some updates on some injuries around the NFL as well. Maybe mix in a little offseason NBA talk for a couple moments, a couple of interesting storylines floating about. And like I said, with baseball, quietly, because the NFL preseason is among us, you look what's going on in baseball. We're 129, 130 games already into the season. I mean, can anyone figure it out? The Phillies slowly, you blink and the Phillies are now up 5.5 on the Mets. And if you blink again, Toronto's up 6.5 on the Yankees. And if you blink one more time, the Tigers are trying to run away with the Central, right? Milwaukee's trying to run away with the NL Central. And the Dodgers have tripped up a little bit, and the Padres are right, just nippling on their heels. And we saw the female ump last night. I mean, I don't care female, male, just get the calls right, will you? I mean, not very good outing. I would say unremarkable debut in that regard. So we'll mix that in as well. 16 past 4 o'clock hours. I mentioned we'll take up to 6 o'clock straight up. Keep it locked in. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side.
This is what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlantic County is rich.
Become a champion with us in Atlantic City.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlantic County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800.
All right, 18 past the 4 o'clock hour. So got a lot of stuff, as I mentioned. Texas ranked number 1 in the preseason AP top 25. Did you see that Paramount TKO Group reached that 7-year deal for all UFC events in the U.S.? And then obviously a lot of the NFL injuries, which are never a good thing. Stafford, Dickerson, you got the running back for the Dolphins. You got the kid Norris for the Lions and concussion protocol, but doing well, which is a good thing. Good thing. All right. So with that being said, as I mentioned, we'll take up to 6, some power hours only on the YouTube channel this week. Keep me locked in on social media at Rich Q on Q. Oh, here we go. Joey B back from vacation. That was fast. 10 days at Atlantis in the Bahamas. Price gouge city. I feel like I've been violated. Atrocious to cost of vacationing there with a family of 4. Never again. Whoa, we need a little more context to that. Was it that bad? I mean, first of all, were you violated playing a little blackjack with the automated, the hand shuffling machine, right? Self-shuffling, which I told you to probably steer clear of. mean, it's good to see that you had enough money to fly back. That's a good thing, right? And get in the car and take the family of 4 back home. That bad. I need a little context. I need an example of what was gouged price wise. I mean, wow. I heard nice reviews. I mean, at least did you at least get great weather? Let's see, Atlantis, Bahamas, right? 21,745 Google reviews, Joey. And they're all sitting at a 4.4. Hold on. Now, Edis times in. Let's talk about the cons real quick. There weren't many of them. Checking in at a Harborside was a big hassle. Was told 1 to 2 hours. It turned into 4. We had stopped by a grocery store before hand, since they don't offer free water in the room. Filtered water dispenser. We brought a lot of goodies. They were kind enough to bring it to our rooms, 2 rooms with a party of 6. I'm trying to look for some good stuff. Harborside, incredible. We loved every second. That's a positive. We love to see how much they improved over the years on the water sides, how they have a Barbie experience since my partner is in love with Barbie. Okay, there you go. Amazing marketing skills. We feel a lot of people love to see more of Barbie. All right, and they actually respond back. Appreciate the review. Jonathan says, spent a week there and it was a great week with the family. Check-in process was pretty poor. Offer an upgrade, 300 cash. That's what you need to get, Joey. 300 cash. Oh, here we go. All right. So we got RT Air Travel. 4 from Denver, $3,000. $27 for a cheeseburger. 21 for a cocktail. Every time we sat down for a meal, 18 to 200 with a family of 4. So 3 times a day, 10 days. Oh my goodness. You over a 10 bagger for this trip? I mean, let's break this down. You're talking airfare, right? Hotel airfare. So you're talking 3 G's, 27 for a burger. 21 for a cocktail. What did the burger come with anything on the side? Did they let you pick out the meat? Every time we sat down, $180 to 200. Oh goodness. Stayed at Harborside, 2-bedroom condo, Marriott Bonvoy points, saved us a ton of money. True. It's incredible, way too overpriced. Here you go. 5 for food, 3 for air, use points for condo. There you go. All right. So you're just under 10. So basically you were spending 1,000 a day. 1,000 a day on the missus and the kids. But did you have fun? I mean, did you do any snorkeling, scuba diving, sightseeing? That's the kind of stuff, inquiring minds want to know. Oh my goodness. It's a down payment on a condo I'm looking at in Florida. What are you doing there, Joey? Yeah, but you know what? These are vacations, right? And it's everything is pricing. Everything. There's always type of, gouging, we should say, right? But man, that's 5. So 2. I mean, you probably should have packed some goodies. $21 for a cocktail. Man, I got to look at this again. 27 for a burger, 21 for a cocktail. So if you ate 3 times a day, Mac and Mango, which by the way sucks. It's so overrated. I mean, can we stop already? $40 for a large pie, and they were 20 deep every night. I went by, skipped it this summer. Yeah, I mean that place is so overrated. Stop already with that crap. You want a good pizza spot? Drive to Atlantic City, Pizza to Roma. I mean, it's not the cleanest place in the world, but let me just tell you something. For the price and the food, the way they make the pies, unbelievable. I give it a Q rating of 5 out of 5. It's unbelievable. Just around 10 for a family of 4. We did an excursion for a day. Harbor Island, Bahamas, incredibly nice playground for billionaires. There you go. All right. Atlantis, the casino and hotel, very nice. Sportsbook is really Schwanky. All right. So did you sit? Now you didn't add in, and you don't need to disclose this information. You don't. You don't have to. But did you partake in any gambling? And if so, did you sit down on the tables? And if so, did you steer clear of said tables that I told you to steer clear of? Because if you didn't, then I'm starting to think, if you had a little rough spot, maybe you're in for about 15, not 10. Uh, but Jackson Dart looked great on Saturday. He played well. Made a couple nice throws. I was pissed though. You had friggin' Catalan and Tasker, just glossing over with the Bills president or the new ownership, or I should say the owner, talking about the new stadium. So it was like an oh by the way moment for Jackson Dart. I think the running back position is going to be very interesting and up for grabs for the Giants. I really do. I do. You look at that depth chart, and I know Tracy's there, but our dude Scadaboo is hurt, and then Singletary, and the other kid had some burn. He was running a little hard. Yeah, what the hell's that kid's name? I mean, I think he had a couple catches out of the backfield. Did he not? Who was it? It was. Oh my gosh, name is totally escaping me. Dante Miller. South Carolina, all back, 26. 26, but he made some nice plays. He did. He made some nice plays. And I'll tell you what I did. We actually had a couple nice little That's the one thing that I was impressed with Jackson Dart. I was impressed with that, the little screen passes. Threw a little sprinkle on some baseball. Okay. 2,000. Whoa. 2,000 minimum tables for blackjack on the casino floor. Cheapest I saw was 25. Wow. So you're not even sitting down at a $25 table if you don't have a bankroll of at least 1,000, because you're going to get a crappy run of cards, and you're going to that's ridiculous. Wow. That's unreal, man. 2,000. That's a different kind of bankroll. Now a G for $25 table, $750, maybe $500 if you're going to hit and run, because if you lose 4 or 5 hands in a row, you're down a bill right there. You're down $100, or if you double and split a couple times, you might be down half your payroll. 2,000, that's crazy. I saw a player once playing $100 a hand at the Gata Borgata. This is probably 7-8 years ago. He was an older gentleman. He had to be in his late, I would say late 70s, early 80s. Didn't look it. He was playing $100 a hand, and he probably sat at that table because he had 4 or 5 orange chips, a grand. He had about 5,000 like to the side. I mean, this guy should have, probably taken it and played at $1,000, or walked out and played in another casino, because the way he was betting, it was absurd. 500, 1,000 a hand, doubling, splitting. I'm sitting there drinking my coffee. I'm watching this guy. I'm starting to like break out in a sweat. I'm like, oh, not good. Oh, what do we got here? The owner of the Houston Rockets yacht is in the marina, and the Vegas Knights owner yacht in the marina too, along with some billionaires from Middle East. Just amazing walking around at night. Now, what you should have done is grab the missus and walk near those yachts and took a little selfie action. Post that sucker up and saying, hey, the Atlantis has been good to us. It has been good to us. Kevin C chimes in, yes, Q, yes, a little Giant talk. My guy is the future. Jackson Dart looked amazing. Laugh out loud. No, Q, honestly, I thought he looked poised, and as you mentioned, effective and efficient. Those, yes, the 2 E's, we will say. Efficient and effective. And I thought Sanders, Mike in Ohio says, Q, honestly, what'd you think of Sanders? I thought he played well. I did. I thought he played well. Listen, this is what we talked about, did we not? Go out and make some plays. Have a couple of drives that end in scores, right? Not, field goals. Keep these drives alive. Make some plays. Show your athleticism. Show your decision making. It's exactly what he did. but it's preseason, so people get very hyped. People get very excited, right away. And listen, you just let it play out a little bit. Let it play out. I still maintain the two that we mentioned, the veterans, are going to get a shot, right? They're going to get a shot first and foremost. Um, I part of me was like, I'd rather see Jameis Winston start than Russell Wilson. And I got slammed for saying it because at least Jameis Winston's going to throw the ball down the field. He's going to throw the ball down the field. I don't need Russell Wilson to come in for a season and do checkdowns. I really don't. Jameis Winston, I know he's going to make a pick. He's going to throw a pick. We already saw that, right? That's why we started laughing. But I'm telling you, the good thing with Dart, the quick release, look, Russell Wilson might be the better quarterback right now for New York. Here's one issue that is starting to concern me a little bit as a Giants fan. Malik Neighbors, kind of reading his press clippings a little too much. He's an alpha type of wide receiver, an alpha player, and he's going to want his. And I'll tell you, that kid, number 80, actually looked pretty good too. Had a couple catches early on in that first quarter. I'll pull his name up in a second. But, the line held up. Granted, it's preseason. We know a lot of the starters weren't playing for Buffalo. But the kid, he's going to get his reps and he's going to have an opportunity. But I like the fact that he had a quick release, couple sidearms, different throws, different angles. I really like the one pop play he had to the running back. I think it picked up about, 17 yards. It was like a 3rd and 13, 2nd and 13. Saw the field well and showed athleticism. So they'll start with Russ, and we'll see. If Russell Wilson throws the ball down the field and they win a couple games, Jackson Dart's not going to play. If Russell Wilson struggles a little bit and the offense struggles, then you're going to see the kid sooner rather than later. And I think the same scenario is going to be played out in Cleveland because we talk about, again, going with the safe bet. Flacco is not the answer going forward. Pickett's not the answer going forward. Dylan Gabriel's not the answer going forward. Deshaun Watson certainly isn't. I think by default, it might be right there for Shedeur Sanders. And again, it doesn't matter the circumstances. Like nobody's going to sit here 5, 6, 7 years from now if Shedeur Sanders is a franchise quarterback, because it would just be ludicrous. It would be such a lazy take. You're not going to sit here and say, well, yeah, but it's because of their running back, situation. He only had a shot because it was so messed up. No. If he goes out and he keeps performing the way he is, he's going to earn the starter role, or he'll be a backup because sooner rather than later, Joe Flacco is going to get hurt or struggle or throw a couple bad picks. So I don't care if they have 4 quarterbacks or 5 quarterbacks and it's a cluster, of a quarterback situation in Cleveland. If you outperform everyone and you play well and you make it harder on the head coach to make a decision, then guess what you did? Wow. And that's what quarterbacks do. Get out of preseason unscathed, have the game slow down a little bit, and everything else is okay, right? Wife said to me, they ain't boats, they're traveling hotels. Yes. Correct. QFNable games can proceed after broken legs, arms extended, and why did they now stop games after neck injuries? Yeah, the kid Norris hit is what I'm referring to in the Lions-Falcon game ending. Yeah, it's man, that is a touchy point you bring up, but I'll say it is a fair point because now you get players after something like that happens. We didn't see a reason to continue the game. That's what you hear. And this all stems from Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Damar Hamlin. You had a human being practically die on the field and get, brought back to life among all the conspiracy theorists saying he really died and it's not him. Well, the guy went on to play and he's still playing. But I understand exactly what you're saying. I think because the NFL is so sensitive to the head trauma, CTE, and look, it's a barbaric and violent sport. We all know that. But to your point, and it's a valid one, guys get concussed or guys get neck injuries or spinal injuries, back injuries, banged up, they get their bell rung. Back in the day, the game would just continue. I mean, it would. It would. Listen, when Dennis Byrd got paralyzed, and I hate to say it, that game wasn't stopped. That game wasn't stopped. And it's unfortunate. I'm not, great guy. Passed away, unfortunately. But he suffered a neck injury against Kansas City in 1992. And, he collided with one of his teammates. And like I said, right there, he broke his fifth cervical vertebrae. And that game wasn't stopped. They continue to play. The NFL, I don't typically defend the NFL. I rarely defend the NFL. The NFL is in such a tough spot with that because of the recent rash of CTE and the head injuries. And I think the Damar Hamlin thing, they were just like, we can ill afford, it was a bad situation. I remember at the time texting my buddies, I was like, they can't, they're not going to continue this game. They're not going to play this game. This game is going to get suspended. And some were like, what are you talking? I'm like, I'm telling you, this game is going to get suspended. There's no way they're playing this game. None. And it's just how the NFL is now. But it's a fair point you brought up. It really is. It's a really fair point. Scott says, I like Dart's throw. Scott, you got to be happy. What do you, I'm surprised you didn't. There you go. Let's get to your comment on Sanders. I was happy with Sanders' play. His second TD throw was a pro throw. Yes, I mentioned that. Yes, he did some nice things. Absolutely. Shore is going to have the happiest inning in Cleveland after all said and done. Yeah, I saw you. Hey, listen, I'm definitely picking up where you are said laying down right there. Deshaun Watson is not, even though he technically is because all that money is guaranteed. So, yeah, these quarterbacks played well. Mike in Ohio chimes in. Q, do you think if Sanders has a couple more series and looks good in preseason, that Stefanski is going to be forced to start him? Head coach is never forced to do anything. I don't care what anyone tells me. I don't care what anyone says. I don't want to hear this. The owner came to. You're a head coach. You're going out. You're going to die with your boots on, man. You make that decision, and you gotta stick with it. You gotta live with it. Now. Again, like Z chimes in Q, you're talking about Jackson Dart. He's pretty advanced in this offense. I think Daboll's going to pull the trigger and start him. Again, I think let me just say this. Under pressure, I like how he stepped in the pocket and he slipped and he slid here and there. And it's something we talked about, even with Sanders. Know when to pull the ball, when to tuck it under, when to run, and when to, that clock goes out. Now, a couple times with Jackson Dart, even on that 3rd and 1, he just missed a wide receiver coming off the slant. That's something, like I said, he's making his left tackle and his right tackle look better by stepping up and having awareness. You just missed a throw. Those are things that can get rectified and cleaned up. The same thing with Sanders. And I think these guys were a little nervous to start. Right? BBJ chimes in. Q, come on, man. Giants are going to surprise a lot of people. They're going to win a minimum of 10 games. You're going to eat crow on a Monday. That being said, I love the new offense. Teams don't have film on us. Ha, ha, ha. Honestly, do you think we're going to have a top 10 defense. Man, you guys get way bent out of shape over preseason. Way been out of shape over the preseason. You really do. Just enjoy the moment. And these young guys played. All right, take a quick time out. Come back on the other side. Get some more of your comments. And Joey, I'll get to your comment as well. There was some really good action this weekend at Hard Rock, by the way, fight-wise. So I know you got a boxing question with Dana White. We'll get into that as well. Lloyd Vance in the 5 o'clock hour on a Monday. Of course, we'll take you up to 6 o'clock. Straight up, keep it locked in. A Monday edition Middays with Q.
This is what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlantic County is rich.
Hidden in an abandoned campground in South Jersey lies a mystical encounter with brews and spirits, where bonfires burn, shadows dance, and flavor favors the bold. Ghosts, ghouls, goblins, grown-ups, it's time to reclaim Halloween. This is Witchcraft, October 10th and 11th. For tickets and information, visit witchcraftnj.com.
Become a champion with us in Atlantic City.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlantic County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800.
All right, 4:43. We'll take you up to 6. Let's see. Q, we can definitely put set up to fail thing because I thought those play calls were perfect for Sanders. Very good game plan for him to get more comfortable. Yes. Yeah, we can put, yeah. We can put away this, exactly. We can put away the setup to fail. Yep. I mean, that was just that was so lazy, and the nonsense from friggin', the Louis Riddicks of the world. Just shut up. Seriously. I mean, it's just so lazy. Now you're going to do that 180. I mean, Kuiper probably needed to go take a cold shower watching that game the other day. No, you're not setting up anyone to fail. You're not sabotaging anyone. You just had a situation where there were red flags with a kid in his personality, came off a certain way. He slid. It happens. We know what Dion said or didn't say, which we don't need to rehash, whether they were trying to teach the kid a lesson or not, or Dion a lesson. It does not matter. He got drafted by the Browns, period. Now, what are you going to do with that opportunity? That's all this is right now. Everything else, smoke and mirrors, man. What are you going to do? You're going to take advantage of it? Take advantage of it. Like anything else. You start a new job. You're shining early. maybe you're a sales assistant or a sales associate. In a couple weeks, someone's like, hey, you're a sales supervisor. And then in a couple months, you're, or you were a lead. Now you're a sales supervisor. And then a couple more months, here we go. Now you're a manager. I mean, that's how it works. That's how it works. And ultimately, you just go out and play. Control what you can control. That's it. Just control what you can control. That's all you can do. I know you're a boxing guy. Thoughts on UFC White House venue? Oh, I thought you were going to say that the bigger move. I mean, I don't have a thought on that. I thought you meant the bigger move with the UFC right now. ESPN, right? 1.5 billion over 7 years. Paramount Plus 77 billion over 7 years. I mean, basically, we're taking away the whole pay-per-view, right? Which Dana White's funny. I mean, the guy's got, he grew it to where it was a monster, but he's also talks out of both sides of his what. Because in one breath, he said the sport of boxing was dying, but then he wanted to get his hand in a cookie jar. Now the second breath, while everyone's sitting there saying, well, the sport of mixed martial arts or combat sports is dying, and now we're going to jack up the price for the pay-per-view, but now we're actually going to scale back. No, wait a second. We're not going to scale back. We're going to eliminate pay-per-view. Now, all that money right there, you're going to put it in the fighters' pockets? Are you? I mean, now you've got a situation where you're talking about an annual value of 1.1 billion. That's the deal. Has an annual value. And Paramount's going to have the official the rights to distribute. Paramount's a monster. So they're going to exclusively distribute UFC's content. So you got a bunch of fights, bunch of events. You got marquee events. Here we go. You got the fight nights, different platforms. And obviously, remember, people always get this confused. They're like, do you watch MMA? No. UFC is the brand, MMA, mixed martial arts, right? So now you've got two very big time broadcast networks, Paramount, CBS, under new structure. It's a huge win, and it should be for the athletes and the fans, because it's a shift away from the PPV model, which, again, I've been saying this for years. You have to scale back. Like, if the numbers are there, you can monetize your advertising. You don't have to put a price tag on these PPV. Eventually, it's all going to go away. I don't care if it's $9.99, $10.99, $14.99, $29.99, $49.99. Hell, I work with platforms that do streaming, that do pay-per-view. And I think some of them eventually are going to turn around and just offer free events. Like basically airing fights on their platforms or the YouTube channel. You get enough eyeballs, you'll be able to monetize it and create revenue. Go out, get sponsorship, go out, get branding, go out and partner with these gambling apps. And they're willing to pay hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to partner up with these entities. They really are. The Japanese boxer died on the same card with brain bleed in the skull. Japan said there's going to limit to 10 rounds. What's your take on that situation? Yeah, I mean, both, and one of those fighters was really, really well. I mean, listen, both were young, but it's not good. I mean, and everyone knows exactly why. We went away from your 15 round fights. All you got to do is, Google, boxing, ABC, Wild World of Sports, 1980, right? In the 1980s. I mean, that's, we've gone through this before. And, unfortunately for a guy like, Ray Mancini, who's great. I've interviewed him so many times, Bobo Mancini, We know he's a wonderful fighter, fan-friendly, aggressive, right? Had that WBA World Lightweight title, 82, 84. But, you know, uh, unfortunately, people will always tag him with the fight against um, Duko Kim. And that's one of the reasons that boxing decided we're not doing 15 rounds anymore. We're going to 12. And they always try to, and when I say they, like the ones that get on the boxing community, and even back then, the neurosurgeons, the doctors, right, the medical people, you can, even in the first round, man, if you take a shot, listen, I was inside Hard Rock on Saturday night, Sound Waves, great card put on R&B Promotions, Alex Barbosa. We streamed it live. Place was packed. Place was packed. Great venue, 9 fights, all competitive, couple stoppages, couple knockouts, couple BS calls, scoring wise. But there were a couple early knockouts where, and this one kid, who I think, if you talk about an MMA fighter who's kind of crossed over, we saw a couple of them over the weekend. And let me just say that some of these, these power shots that we talk about, right? These power shots, it can come in the first round and it can do some ridiculous amount of damage. The argument was always, well, these shots right now, you keep getting concussed, you keep getting your brain rattled in your head. And that can happen in the 10th round. It can happen in the 12th round. Hell, we know it can happen in the 15th round. That's not the case. I mean, some of these guys are bigger. A lot of them are bigger, stronger. Some of these fighters are making their pro debut. Some of these fighters, quite frankly, have no business being in the ring at all. Like no business being in the ring. And they take some really bad shots. Now, you're going to tell me that the shot they took in the first round maybe doesn't have the same effect that if they're going to get it in the 4th or 6th, because let's just say they're a young fighter making their pro debut. Hell, you're not going to go out there for 8, 10 rounds. Point is, you can get hurt. And it doesn't matter if it's the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, or the 4th round, or the 10th round, or the 15th round. It really doesn't matter. It just doesn't. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm watching, I'm calling these fights the other night. This kid, Jose Soto, is like a beast. He's 6'1". He's like he's built like a fire plug. He's an MMA converted fighter. And he scores a knockout in the first round against this kid from Atlanta, this kid, Pablo Mercado, and literally hit him right on the side of the head, second time. So the damage can be prevalent. It can be enough. It can be done to really do some damage. Like really some bad damage, right? But like I said, all these platforms, they're going to go eventually free. They are. Everyone knows it. It's no secret. It's not sustainable. They know it. I've spoken to these guys that run them, that own them. I know guys right now. My guy down in Florida, that platform, most likely, that PPV, that model, that scale is going to be free eventually. Because you're talking about sustainability. All you're trying to do is build a library of content. That's all you're trying to do. And ultimately, what the UFC and what Dana White have pretty much already figured out, we've already cornered the market. So we want to pay our fighters more, but we also want more money coming in. Let's attract more eyeballs. Let's not scare away people by charging them $39, $49. They're not going to do that anymore. $69, $79, $59, $19, $29. I know, the human brain, right? Here, it's $19.99. Oh, that's under $20. Let me swipe the card. I'm telling you, it's going to be all free content. And you go out, you get the gambling apps, you get the venues to provide the dollars as well. You get the product placement, you get part of the concessions, you get merch, whatever. And you make that money back in spades, right? You make that money back. What is this? Heard about a group of crypto brothers are behind the sex toy WNBA phenomenon. Fair or foul? Great marketing strategy. I mean, it's getting a little ridiculous, isn't that? I mean, that's all I have to say about that. It's getting a little goofy. You know, the disruption by individuals throwing those said toys onto the court, not a good thing. Interesting, because the WNBA condemned those actions, saying unacceptable and dangerous. I think a couple of people were already arrested, right? I think one dude said it was supposed to be a joke, right? Let me go viral. Well, all right, we'll see. I guess you're going viral now. Got to be respectful. Come on now. Can't be like that. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a marketing ploy by the league, because all they want to preach is that they want to be, you know, that level playing field. They want to be taken serious. And if they're doing this, you know, that's kind of like what we said in the beginning of the show. Some of these people talking out of both sides of their, you know what. All right, fast approaching 5 o'clock. Lloyd in the 6 o'clock hour, the 5 o'clock hour. We'll go around the league, get his thoughts on Shador and Jackson Dart. Two very, very solid. Oh, not by the league, by the crypto guys. Who knows? But really, where's the marketability in that, right? Because the league's not going to allow that. What's going to happen now is, like, if you get caught walking into an arena with that said toy, they'll probably ban you for life. And by the way, where's security in all this too, by the way? Seriously, where's security? Don't you do the whoop, 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 whoop? Don't they do that, right? Where's security? Trying to see what's going on. Sarge says, Q, did you finish Reacher? I did. I thought season 1 was very good. Season 2, Season 3, but that's what happens. Like, the dude's a monster. He's like 6'7". He's got a very dry wit, but it's one of the reasons I enjoyed the show. But yes, I banged out the last 3 episodes the other night. That was probably Saturday night after the fights. Still getting, a little juiced and jacked up, calling the fights, get home, want to settle down a little bit. Yeah, banged out the last 3 episodes. It was, I would say, C+. It's funny because Tom Cruise is like 5'7", and this dude, Tom Cruise, played Jack Reacher too in the movies, 2 of them. And this dude's like 6'7". He's a beast. And he's constantly eating on the show, which is funny. All right, 5 o'clock straight up. We'll take you up to 6 Lloyd Vance on the other side. We'll get his thoughts on the NFL preseason.
This is what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlantic County is rich.
Hidden in an abandoned campground in South Jersey lies a mystical encounter with brews and spirits, where bonfires burn, shadows dance, and flavor favors the bold. Ghosts, ghouls, goblins, grown-ups, it's time to reclaim Halloween. This is Witchcraft, October 10th and 11th. For tickets and information, visit witchcraftnj.com.
This is what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlantic County is rich.
champion with us in Atlantic City.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlantic County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800.
This is what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlantic County is rich.
All right, 5 o'clock straight up on a Monday, a Lunes Mentioso Man Up. Middays with Q on this Monday. Rich Quiñones here. Lloyd Vance going to jump on in a moment. Don't forget, you can give me a follow at Rich Q on Q, YouTube, X, IG, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. We're on Trix 57. We'll have some power hours this week as well. No show tomorrow. We'll be traveling. Should be back by Wednesday. Got to jump out of state, but and then not sure yet on Thursday. And as I mentioned, with NFL coming up, we're going to mix things up a little bit as far as show times and slots. So we'll give you that information as well. Let's get back to some of the comments. De facto, 70-yard field goal count for the record or not because it was preseason? No, it's preseason. I mean, that's just my take. I mean, it's great for the kid. You know, I mean, pretty much, I guess we can sit there and say he solidified a job as a NFL kicker, but it's preseason. I mean, who's going to sit back and say, "Oh, remember that 70-yard field goal in preseason?" Not too many people. Joe D chimes in. Q, I'm really concerned about the offensive line now for the Eagles. You should be. You should be. You should be. You can't sugarcoat that, man. You shouldn't. Because, you know, whether it's a meniscus injury or not, he's not going to be 100%, and he's not going to be at full strength, and he's going to miss some time. You're talking about the offensive line. That offensive line that was glued together last year for Saquon Barkley, rushing over 2,000 yards. You never want to lose a Pro Bowl guard, ever. Why do you guys think a 70-yard friggin' field goal in preseason should be counted as an NFL record when it's preseason, which means nothing? So now all of a sudden you want to open up and have every stat counted? Come on, stop. Ridiculous. That's great. The kid kicked a 70-yard field goal. Q is a hater. He poo-poos everyone's accomplishments. That's great. It's a 70-yard field goal. He's in New York because everyone else sucks. No, but it's preseason. I mean, what are we doing now? We're going to take all the stats from preseason? What do you want to do? You want to take this kid's jersey and his cleats and stick him to Canton over a 70-yard friggin' field goal in the preseason? Come on. Stop. There's no poo-pooing on that. There's no hating on it. Great for the kid, but no one cares. Are we going to sit there and say, hey, man, remember 2025 when that kicker who only lasted a season in the NFL kicked a 70-yarder preseason? No one cares. It's cool to see, but nobody cares. They don't. You guys really now going to start? Is this where we're going now? Is this where we're going to start to make our bones? We're going to talk about this nonsense. All right, let me take a quick time out. We'll punch up Lloyd on the other side. Keep it locked in. We'll take you up to 6.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlantic County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800. Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlantic County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800.
All right, 5 o'clock straight up. We'll take you up to 6. Rich Quiñones here, a Monday edition of Middays with Q. And you guys are really serious about this field goal. A man who never has to worry about records being broken. All right, I got to bring him in. Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on 102.9 FM. The Game. Hear him every Monday night at 8. All right, I don't know why I'm going to even actually have to ask you this, and we have to entertain it, just appease some of the listening audience. Should we count a 70-yard preseason field goal as a legit?
No, Q, because it's a preseason game. It's an exhibition. It's not a regular season football game. So
Right.
Justin Tucker's 66-yarder to beat the Lions that hit the crossbar and bounced over still
There you go.
is the longest. There's so many. I mean, going back in the day in the 70s, they used to play, I believe, 7
Preseason games.
exhibition preseason games. So there's just too many stats and things you'd have to bring along. Yes, great accomplishment for Cam Little, the kicker for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but no, you cannot say that's an official record.
Yeah, I mean, he would have probably been your game ball, Vance's view, during the regular season. Maybe potential quarterbacks who get a game ball. We'll start with Shador Sanders and Jackson Dart. I guess so much for setting the kid up to fail in Cleveland. Shador Sanders, I know you and I were texting each other. I thought he played well. I thought he took advantage of the situation, how screwed up, whatever it is, how we want to define it, but made some, I think knocked off the nerves a little bit. A couple little skittish throws, bad sack, but scrambled a little bit, moved around, and did what you're supposed to do. Take your team on a couple touchdown drives. In that second touchdown toss, as some guys have already pointed out, that's a professional throw, right? As we like to say, that's a franchise kind of sling right there for Shador Sanders. I thought the kid played well.
Yes, Q. And the key thing is he got his opportunity. I know a lot of people saying setting him up to fail and all this stuff I was hearing from people. No, the Browns are in desperation mode and they need someone to step forward. They have all these quarterbacks and he got his opportunity, went out there, 14 to 23, 138, 2 TDs, no interceptions. And you're right, he was moving the chains, poised in a huddle, and particularly that throw in the end zone with a lot of touch. That one touchdown was a great throw. So he's showing, okay, given the opportunity, given the reps, I can compete with the rest of these guys. So I think they're going to do some juggling in that locker room in terms of quarterback position. And oddly enough, I'll be at the game Saturday to watch them against the Eagles.
Interesting you just said that, because now you've got veteran players kind of like, oh, the kid can play a little bit, right? So now you start to get into that little dicey situation where the locker room, you hear the whispers a little bit. I still believe Flacco will be that week 1 starter, but he might be on a very, very, very short leash. And the best case scenario, if you were a Browns fan, is what you saw over the weekend and what you potentially might see on Saturday. Now, Stefanski still hasn't named a preseason starter. I know, riveting, right? But I think he's in a position, as you said, it's desperation time right now for Cleveland. And I saw some athleticism. I also saw a quick release. I saw the pocket awareness, but you're going to make mistakes. You're a rookie. Even Jackson Dart, who we'll get to in a moment, efficient, effective. Missed on a slant, but showed a little athleticism when the line started to collapse. So, and you got out of there injury free, right? That's kind of what you're looking at. Now, if he goes out, speaking of Sanders, and he plays well against the Eagles, and again, we can argue if it's going to be first, second, or third string out there defensively. If he still goes out there and makes some plays, then do you envision a scenario where more pressure builds from up top for Stefanski to play the kid sooner rather than later? And let me just throw the caveat in where I said, look, it's the head coach's decision ultimately, right? Especially if he knows he's going to be fired if they come out to a really bad or slow start. But I guess, will that make it easier for Stefanski or harder for him if Sanders keeps playing well?
It's going to make it harder for him. He's going to have to move up the depth chart. And the interesting thing is, Q, the owner, Jimmy Haslam, he listens to talk radio there, and he listens to the fans. And I know they're going to be clamoring for Shador Sanders. Yes, Flacco is a veteran. They didn't want to put him out there. Pickett has a hamstring injury. Dylan Gabriel has a hamstring injury, and Tyler Huntley, he's there for a cup of coffee. So I think, you know, Shador Sanders is going to get his chance to get the Eagles, and if he plays well, he's going to probably get more reps. I know they're going to have some joint practices. You want to see how he does in that situation as well. But he did play very well against Carolina Panthers. Cleveland won 30-10. It is exhibition preseason football. Let's not get overboard here. I'm getting guys. One of my emailers is like, "This is the greatest preseason ever." I guess people are just so starved for live football action that they're like, okay, I got to see every game. And the NFL Network does a great job showing all the games, so you get to watch them. But great play by him, and they also had Ted McMillan played well for the Panthers in that game. But yeah, it was a fun watch.
Yeah, and I know some guys were asking me, would you think of Sanders going uh, back with Tony Grassi from Cleveland, who's a loudmouth? I mean, even like Baker Mayfield had issues with this guy. They were kind of all smiles after the fact. But listen, you're a young player, man, and you know that the media, and of course in Cleveland, they're going to be putting you under a microscope, and they're going to be nitpicky here and there. It's not their job to say something positive, right? I mean, it's not.
Yeah,
The
that was
media's
like,
job is 99.9% to be negative because that's what gets everyone talking at the end of the day. And then, yeah, you
yeah,
give credit where credit is due. But Sanders is going to have to grow up pretty fast because it's all well and good after a preseason game. Week 4 or 5, he's thrown out there and he goes 18 of, 39 for 76 yards and 2 picks. You can't really shy away from that.
exactly, Q. And there's always going to be these preseason heroes. I kind of heard you kind of alluding that before I came right on. I remember last year for the Dolphins, Preston Williams, a young receiver, had all these catches, and one of them was a highlight reel one, and then you never heard of him once the season starts. And don't forget, August 26th is the cut down, 90-53. And unfortunately, a lot of these guys that are playing in these games because they're sitting out the veterans, a lot of these guys are not going to be on that final
Correct.
roster. Maybe they get a chance on the 16-man practice squad.
Correct. So you got to make your opportunities. Jackson Dart, I thought again, same like Sanders, showed a couple flashes, moved around. I had the game on before I left for the fights. I was kind of annoyed that Tasker and Catalan were, talking during his touchdown toss, which was a gorgeous one. I thought he bailed out the line a couple times, sliding and stepping up into the pocket. He missed a couple throws. But again, best case scenario. Personally, I would rather see Jameis Winston start over Russell Wilson. I know Jameis Winston's going to throw you a boatload of picks, but Russell Wilson, even in a preseason game, I was getting annoyed with all these checkdowns. But that's a conversation for another day. Russell Wilson's going to be that week 1 starter, kind of like Flacco will be in Cleveland. For how long, who knows? But what did you make of Jackson Dart?
Q, he looked very composed out there. You know, I hate to bring up stats during the preseason game, but 12 of 14, 154, one TD. And then I like that he got out of the pocket. He rushed
Hmm.
3 times for 24 yards, showed a lot of mobility, more than I'd seen at USC and Ole Miss. So, he's going to get his opportunities. And Dayball's another head coach on the hot seat. So if Russell Wilson's struggling, why not give this kid an opportunity earlier rather than later? And let's face it, maybe Jameis Winston will be a trade commodity at the end of camp going into the season because we're seeing a lot of injuries. But yeah, I really like the way that he threw the football and he had command of the huddle.
Speaking of injuries, uh, Rappaport is reporting Landon Dickerson, Pro Bowl guard for the Eagles, meniscus injury Sunday night, minor knee surgery in the coming days per him and Mike Garafolo, considered week to week with the goal of being available to begin the regular season. So that's your, if you're an Eagles fan, kind of your sigh of relief so far with that news.
Yeah, Q, you're right, and it's unfortunate, and we talked about the Eagles and can they repeat and be in the same situation? Every season's different, and you're already seeing injuries kind of come into play, and they already had the defection, so that's something big that happened to them. Hopefully, yes, it's week to week, and he can be out there by the season opener September 4th against the Dallas Cowboys. But yeah, a lot of Eagles fans holding their breath.
Yeah, and rightfully so, right? And he's dealt with some injuries. I mean, obviously that line is so key and important because they opened up the holes for Saquon to have the type of season that he did last year. You mentioned some of these injuries around the league. Running back for the Dolphins, Madison goes down. The kid from Detroit with that injury, which I'm going to ask you about in a second. I do want to continue. Justin Fields again limited, JJ McCarthy limited. Any thought on those two respectively?
No, we'll start with Justin Fields. I like what he did, Q. I mean, he played very well. Again, it's preseason, so you kind of pump the brakes, but uh, made some nice throws, got outside the pocket, and you know, England and Aaron Glenn are excited about this guy, so he's going to get his opportunities. I don't think Tyrod Taylor is going to threaten him to start. I think he's going to um, look good. So they'll keep moving forward. They'll probably next game will be the dress rehearsal for all the teams. So he'll get his chances. JJ McCarthy, a little up and down there, and then you wonder, okay, Justin Jefferson wasn't out there, and but it's a big jump for him because he not throw the football a lot in Michigan, had that bad knee injury, and he's going to need all the reps in training camp, so forth. So it was up and down, but in the end, he had a couple drives and they got him off the field.
So, one of the listeners brought up a very interesting point regarding the kid Norris for the Lions, Mo Rice Norris, who's now in concussion protocol, the safety after that scary injury in the preseason game against Atlanta over the weekend, a game in which they and it was. I saw the video. I didn't want to see it. After once I saw it, that was it. His head snapped back, went down. He tried to tackle one of the running backs for the Falcons. That was in the beginning of the fourth. Carted off the field, put in an ambulance, and the crew announced the game was suspended. So one of the listeners, Joey B, brought up a fair point. Why is it guys are they can get concussed or they can break arms, they can break legs on the field, but we have an injury like this, and right away, the game is suspended and or canceled. Now, my opinion was, I think it certainly stems from DeMar Hamlin, but I also believe that over the last several years with the CTE scare in the NFL and everyone just trying to push back with the head injuries, you can't leave anything up to chance. Is this going to be the new norm, though, when a player gets hurt, maybe has movement in their extremities, but yet they're carted off and taken in an ambulance? Does the game come to a halt? Is it suspended? Do we just call it a day? Like, I know it's a sensitive, I brought up Dennis Byrd. Dennis Byrd was paralyzed on the field for the Jets. They didn't stop that game against Kansas City. They played.
Right. And we've seen that quite often where somebody, they bring the ambulance out and nobody wants to finish the game, but you do. Hamlin was the exception to the rule, obviously going in cardiac arrest on the field. They had to take care of that situation. But it just shows you how they're like, okay, it's just a preseason, pump the brakes. Uh, let's just get everybody off the field, for safety concerns, and let's not worry about the end result of the game. So I think that factored into a lot. I think in a regular season, there's just too much TV money online and so forth. So they're not going to worry about that. And we also even saw ties. There were two ties where they were like, all right,
Well, the Raiders,
no
I mean, I feel
no
bad for you
overtime.
if you had the Raiders on money line, that field goal was blocked. So I don't think that's a as we like to say a bad beat, if you will. Yeah, and there were a lot of high scoring games too. People were like laughing. They're like, "Are you really betting on these preseason games?" I'm like, "There's always value in preseason games." You had Miami and the Bears with a tie. How bad? By the way, how bad are the Saints going to be this year?
Yeah, they're pretty bad, and it's looking like Spencer Rattler's going to win that job over Shook. But
Uh,
it's Chris Olave's banged up. They're not sure if they're going to be able to get him out there, and the offensive line's been in flux, and Kellen Moore's got a lot to clean up there. I think the next shoe to drop is Mickey Loomis has been the general manager there for quite some time. I think the Bentons will probably say enough stuff, but yeah, Q, I do agree with you. It's going to be a very long season for them. The roster, when I did my previews, I was looking at there's just not a lot of talent on a roster.
I have three teams that I feel will win 3 games or less. One of them is the Saints, the other is the Browns, and the third is the Giants.
The Giants have that defense with Abdul Carter, and they can get after people. So maybe I think they'll win more than 3 games. But yeah, I think they're going to kind of struggle, and it's going to be a long season for those other teams that you talked about. The Saints definitely. I think it's going to be a struggle for them. The Browns as well. So anything crazy can happen in the NFL. But yeah, if you're doing a survivor pool, definitely look to go against those teams a lot.
We've got week 2. I'm going to assume we'll get a look at Cam Ward again, or I should say, we'll get a look at Cam Ward,
Yeah,
Tennessee.
he had his debut against the Bucks, and
Yeah, he's
the Bucks
okay.
win the game 29 to
Yeah.
7. But yeah, the Titans are another team that are probably going to struggle. But Ward was out there. He made some timely throws, and he got the ball to Ridley a couple times, so he has him. They lost their running back, second string guy Tajay Spears, to a high ankle sprain. So another team where you look at the roster, it's like, man, there's just not a lot of talent there, and I think Brian Callahan, their head coach, is firmly on the hot seat. They already changed the GM last season, and I think he may be next.
Yeah, is that fair knowing that they drafted this kid first overall and there's going to be some growing pains?
Yes. Yeah, and I think the Adams family that owns the team understands that. They know, okay, Cam Ward was I it was a bad quarterback class, number one, but he was head and shoulders above the other ones, and he did well in his interviews, threw good at the combine, and I think they're looking at him to be a leader in the future. But they definitely are going to need to get him more help. He has Pollard. I talked about Ridley earlier, but there's just not a lot of people to help them, and it's probably going to be a long season for him. So yeah, just give the kid time. Let's see, and he's under. They'll have 4 years with the fifth-year option with him being a first-round draft pick.
So, out of all these young quarterbacks that we saw, obviously we know Ward's going to start. You know, again, JJ McCarthy's going to start. We still don't know what's going to happen in Indianapolis. I still believe Russell Wilson is going to be the week 1 starter. It just leaves Cleveland. I mean, is there any scenario, even if Sanders plays really well, can you see? And I'm not trying to belabor the point. I guess I'm trying to make a point and not belabor it. I think no matter what he does, Stefanski's going to start Joe Flacco because he feels he's got a proven veteran. He's been around the block, almost 15 years in the NFL, Super Bowl winning quarterback, well traveled, no panic. Here we go. We might lose some games, but he can steady it, to start, if that makes sense. And I should curl back and take back we'll lose some games because that's not what you're looking to do if you're Stefanski. But I feel as though Sanders can continue to play well, and the best he'll get is be that backup. And then it's just going to be a question or debate or conversation of, when will he get a chance to start?
Yeah, Q, I think that's a good ascension point for him. I think, yeah, backup could be logical for him. Flacco, obviously, they're saying, okay, he's a veteran, he's healthy, but we're not going to put him out there. And then they're going to go with, Chris Chandler and Steve McNair, Don McNabb, Doug Peterson. They're going to let the veteran go out there, take the early season lumps, and then maybe go with one of the younger guys. Now, you factor in Dylan Gabriel's there. They drafted him in the third round. Are they going to wipe the egg off their face and say, okay, we shouldn't have taken him ahead of Shador? Uh, right now, the play of the two of them has shown Sanders is better. So, yeah, I think Sanders will get his opportunities, but I think, yes, Flacco is probably going to be a starter week 1 for the Browns.
Kevin and Jackson just hit me up on Facebook and said, by that rationale, can you see a scenario where Dart plays really well and forces Daboll's hand? I kind of feel the same way. You brought in the veterans for a reason, right? So to me, it's going to be Russell Wilson week 1.
Yes, and you always say follow the money. So they gave Russell Wilson he's still getting paid by Denver, but they still gave him a nice contract, and I still think they're going to say, okay, put the veteran out there. But I think you'll probably see Dart before some of these other guys, some of these other rookies coming out there, because I think eventually Daboll's going to be like, you know what, maybe I got to put the kid out there to save my job, energize the fan base, say, okay, we have a plan, we have a direction. But yeah, Wilson's out there week 1. Winston, as I was saying earlier, is the big, what are they going to do with him? Because Dart's good enough to be the backup, So Giants, maybe they shouldn't have signed both those veteran guys right away in free agency. Maybe they should have waited a little bit. But yeah, Dart did look good, and I think he may have to force their hand.
Then if you're the Giants, why don't you try to, trade Jameis Winston, trade him to New Orleans, trade him to Indianapolis?
Yeah, I that does make sense, and particularly the Saints.
It's a 2-year deal, though. 2-year, $8 million. But go ahead.
Right, and they can get out of that. You know how it is with NFL contracts. But
Sure.
yeah, I think the Saints they could firmly use him, because Rattler didn't play that well, and then you have Shook there, and there's just not a lot. And they know Jameis from his time there, so he could be a trade piece. And with injuries and how some of these rosters play out, yeah, I think he could be on the move, and maybe they get like a 6th rounder for him.
What do you got going on tonight with Lloyd Vance's Insider Football?
Yeah, it's going to be fun, Q. We're going to recap a lot of the games that we were talking about earlier, but also I'm going to have Matt Lombardo come on, one of my colleagues.
Nice.
A guy, he's doing a camp tour. So Matt's been at the Ravens camp, the Eagles camp, the Steelers, Washington Commanders. So we're going to pick his brain and find out what's going on the inside of each of those training camps. And yeah, we'll start talking about week 2 of the preseason as well.
Who do you think are the top 2 or 3 coaches that go into the season on the hot seat?
That's a good question. I think Brian Callahan with the Tennessee Titans. You definitely have to say Stefanski with the Browns is on the hot seat. McDaniel down in Miami. That situation, I think he has one win over a team over 500 when it matters. You know what I mean? Like, he can beat the easy teams. And then that roster, you just had so many defections. So I definitely would put McDaniel in there as well. And in terms of underachievement, if Atlanta kind of regresses, Raheem Moore could be on the hot seat down there as well.
All right, brother. I always appreciate you jumping on board. We'll do it again later on the week. Everyone, check out Lloyd tonight. Lloyd Vance's Insider Football, 8 to 9 on SR 1029 FM. The Game. Appreciate you, pal.
All right, Q. Talk to you later.
All right, there you have it, my guy, Lloyd Vance. Quick timeout. We will reset the table, come back on the other side. We'll take you up to 6.
This is what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlantic County is rich.
abandoned campground in South Jersey lies a mystical encounter with booze and spirits, where bonfires burn, shadows dance, and flavor favors the bold. Ghosts, ghouls, goblins, grown-ups, it's time to reclaim Halloween. This is Witchcraft, October 10th and 11th. For tickets and information, visit witchcraftnj.com.
Become a champion with us in Atlantic City. Become a champion with us in Atlantic City.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlantic County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800.
All right, 5:35. We'll take you up to 6 on a Monday. Let me get to a couple more comments. Q, did you see that the Kelsey brothers are having a special guest? Ha, ha, ha. I know you can't stand that stuff. Who do you think it's going to be? Don't even listen or watch that pod. And, I mean, what do you want me to say? Is it going to be Swift? Kansas City's taking a step back this year. So have fun with the pod, guys. Have fun with the pod. Kansas City's taking a step back. I said it a couple months ago, and I still believe that. I would not pencil them in the AFC Championship game just yet. I just want it. Pump the brakes a little bit. Pump the brakes. TC in Jersey City chimes in. Q, you're not sold on Jackson Dart, it sounds like. Why? Because I mentioned that Winston should start? I never said I wasn't sold on the kid. I'm not. Well, I don't know why you guys want to take a couple series from a preseason game and, just label or tab these guys franchise quarterbacks right away. It just does not work like that. It just doesn't. It really doesn't. That's great because it's the hype. It's social media. I mean, years ago, you get the guy, they got to wait till Monday for it to hit print. No highlights. You weren't doing an all 22. You weren't going on X or IG and seeing all the different angles, the arm strength, the arm talent, all that nonsense, all these asinine terms that the talking heads use. What does that even mean? Pushing the ball down the field. Just no. He's got a strong arm. He throws the ball well. That's it. It's preseason, though. It gives you a glimpse. It gives you a little hope, and that's what you want. But have there been some maybe rookie quarterbacks that have struggled really bad early on and they turn out to be Hall of Fame quarterbacks? We are in a time and an era of social media. So if, draft guru number one says this guy's it and cuts up 4 great throws and forgets to show the one where he took a bad sack, the masses get sucked in and they believe what they see from those 4 throws, those 4 plays that were snipped and cut, edited brilliantly. Here you go. The guy's a Hall of Fame quarterback. But we failed to show you taking a sack. We failed to show you missing a wide receiver on a 3rd and short who was wide open on a crossing route. We failed to show you a young quarterback who's not reading through his progressions. So, like, don't get caught up with that. As franchises that have had issues over the last several years in the quarterback spot, now you've got a little something to hang your hat on, and that's all you want. I think it's going to be a fascinating scenario in Cleveland. I do. I really do, because if Sanders goes out and continues to play well and duplicates what we saw in his, NFL preseason debut, there's going to be humming along sports talk radio in Cleveland and Ohio, and you're going to get some veterans who are going to be mentioning this kid a lot when the microphone's stuck in front of their face, whether they're on the defensive side of the ball or offensive side of the ball. They're on the offensive side of the ball, they're going to sit there and say things like, or phrases like, he's calm, he's poised, provide a little jolt, a little spark. Hey, he's athletic. He made some really nice plays for us. If they're on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to sit there and say, hey, gave us a breather, converted a couple 3rd down plays, long drives. That's what we're looking to get out of our quarterback this year. So you get that divide in the locker room because it's a shiny new toy, or it's unwrapped, or it was wrapped sitting under the tree and it's Christmas Eve and you guys want to go digging, you want to open it when you got to wait for Christmas Day. Those are the rules. So, you unwrap it and you see you got that shiny new toy, and you're really not looking at, the other gifts that you're about to unwrap. You're like, oh, what's going to beat this? That's how they're kind of looking at these quarterbacks, especially Sanders. And they're also thinking about too, you got a veteran guy in Myles Garrett who has been very complimentary of Shedeur Sanders. And you get the mic'd up, you get the clips, you get all this stuff. He's a guy that has some juice and some cachet within that organization, and certainly that locker room. Veteran players talk to the head coach. That's why teams have, the veterans committee, 4 or 5 guys that have been around the block that can kind of convey a player's gripe or the team's gripe or their thoughts to the head coach, the committee. Giants had it with veteran guys. A lot of them said to Coughlin that final year where he thought he was going to get fired, or I should say the one year he thought he was going to get fired, come in and be loose. And he decided to do that. And it worked. Right? It works sometimes. You have to have the right mix. And we were very negative of the fact that Sanders goes to a spot like Cleveland because of how piss poor that organization has been run. And I kind of flipped the script and said it might be the biggest blessing in disguise because there's going to be no expectation. Come in and play. You can't do any worse than these guys. If he goes out and wins a starting job and they win 5 or 6 games and he looks promising, he saved Kevin Stefanski's job. He saved his job. If you throw him out there, you're not looking, for 10 wins. You're not. That's not what you're looking at. You're looking at, can you win 3, 4, 5 games? But do we have something to work with? Do we have a franchise quarterback? Do we have a quarterback that can win us games? Young, vibrant, chip on his shoulder, a little edge, can play the part. That's all you're looking at. That's it. It's all these teams. Tennessee wants to find out if they have an award. Giants want to eventually find it if they have it in Dart. Everything else is smoke and mirrors. It really is. It really is. That's what makes it very unique and at the same time, kind of a goofy situation that's well worth watching. Definitely. By the way, Ohtani last night, 40th home run, unbelievable. This dude is just flat out a beast. What are the updated NL MVP odds? I should know them. I should have them. NL MVP odds in baseball. Here we go. So Judge is still a favorite at minus 145. AL. NL. Wow, Schwarber's at plus 2,000. And Ohtani's at minus 20,000. No love for Schwarber. Manny Machado plus 6,000. Machado's he's quietly had a really nice season. He really has. By the way, the Phillies are on the road tonight against the Reds. Yanks host the Twinnies. And we'll go through the standings before we take a break. Toronto's up on top of the Red Sox by 4. Yankees 6.5 in the AL East. Detroit is up 6 on the Guardians in the Central, 9.5 over the Royals. That offense, there's only one team in that division that has a plus when it comes to run differential. That's Detroit. Guardians, Kansas City, Minnesota, and the god-awful White Sox, all minus. Houston is a half a game up on Seattle. That's going to be a very compelling division to watch. Don't discount Texas in the wild card. The Angels are starting to slide. Athletics, we know they're done. NL East, we mentioned this in the beginning of the show. Mets are 5.5 back of the Phils. The Marlins have faded. The Braves are favorite. We know the Nationals are done. I mean, they were done once they fired their GM and their skipper as well when they got rid of Rizzo. The Brewers are 6 up on the Cubs. Reds are fading fast. The Dodgers in San Diego, that's a very compelling race as well in the NL West. Let me pull up Machado's numbers. So Manny Machado this season, 297, 224 total bases, 72 ribbies, only 20 home runs, 29 doubles, 135 hits, and I think he has 10 or 11 stolen bases. He's actually putting together pretty quietly, pretty good season. Pretty good season. And he's healthy. So he should be able to get over 30 home runs. 37 is a career high, which he had with Baltimore back in 2016. So he should be able to smash that. But he's having a real nice season for San Diego. That NL West is going to be a little more difficult, as we talked about. 543. Cleveland media has consistently said Stefanski's not on the hot seat, including Tony Grassi. That's exactly why it feels weird. He's on the hot seat. I have friends that work in Cleveland that cover the Browns. He's on the hot seat. I don't care what Tony Grassi says or the other media. He is definitely on the hot seat. He can ill afford to have a down year. And here's the other thing, Vince, to your point. He's also got to make the right decision when it comes to who the quarterback's going to be. He does. But he is definitely on the hot seat. They can't, you're not going to give him a pass because of who they drafted and when they drafted him. You're just not. You're not. I know contrary. I don't think for some reason, well, not for some reason, but John Bueller, who I respect, thinks Stefanski is a really good head coach. I'm not sold on Stefanski. I'm just not. Now, if we want to talk about, again, because of the situation, right? And I, the guy's a Philly guy. He's moved up the ladder. He was with the Vikings, assistant, head coach, offensive coordinator. Okay. I'm not entirely sold on this guy. And I'm not going to bail him out and tell you that, again, he's got an opportunity to right the wrong here. Look, they won 11 games a couple years ago, right? They were 3-14 last year. And I know they were 7-10, 8-9, 11-5. But I just think I think you get to a point where you got to blame somebody. And you look at the GM and you look at the head coach, and now the pressure's on him. And hot seat can mean a couple different things, right? Get it right. Pull the plug, pull the strings on the right quarterback. If you don't, you're going to be out of a job. And I think he will go with Flacco to start. But there's going to be a very short leash. Agree 100%. Stefanski has to prove just as much as Gabriel Sanders, in my opinion. He does. I don't think Gabriel's going to be a very good quarterback. I don't. All right, 5:46, quick timeout.
This is what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlantic County is rich.
Hidden in an abandoned campground in South Jersey lies a mystical encounter with booze and spirits, where bonfires burn, shadows dance, and flavor favors the bold. Ghosts, ghouls, goblins, grown-ups, it's time to reclaim Halloween. This is Witchcraft, October 10th and 11th. For tickets and information, visit witchcraftnj.com.
Become a champion with us in Atlantic City.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlantic County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800.
Now, I'll add something too that Vince mentioned with Stefanski. I'm again, from what I'm hearing, he doesn't have a long leash, right? Because you got that losing record and the media speculation. From those that I know that covered the team, some of them believe that he is on the hot seat. And to Vince's point, the talking heads have also been very protective of him, right? Now, Jimmy Haslam has mentioned he's it's not a make or break year, maybe because of the potential impending what could be a disaster at the quarterback spot. Has nothing to do with the components, right? The pieces in place, just the maneuverability and whatnot. Then maybe he gets another year. Now, if I put him to the side, Brian Daboll, then, by that rationale, should also potentially get more than a year, right? Because they drafted Jackson Dart and they brought in veterans, and we're waiting to see when the kid's going to play. Mike McDaniel is definitely on the hot seat. Shane Steichen is definitely on the hot seat. I mean, if Anthony Richardson starts and stinks up the joint, Steichen's gone. He's gone. Absolutely gone. Somebody asked me, what about Dave Canales in Carolina? I don't think so. I don't. I think they're building something there. I really do. The problem is, a guy like, so if you go through this, like Lloyd mentioned Brian Callahan. So it's a critical year because you got the number one overall pick. You drafted Cam Ward. You need to see some improvements in the AFC South, win some games. Miami, with the situation McDaniel, I think his cute little act is wearing thin. They pay Tua a lot. He's concussion prone. You got the issues with Hill. He wants to get traded. You got some injuries. You have McDaniel and his goofy comments during the press conference, which, oh, by the way, did you see Mike Tomlin didn't answer one question after the presser? Not one member of the media had one question to ask him during the preseason. He made a couple comments and got the hell out of there within like 35 seconds, 40 seconds. But Daboll, 3-14, doesn't sit well with Mara and ownership, right? McDaniel got to get over the hump, win a couple playoff games, right? Not falter. Steichen, that's just a mess. That's a bad spot because you have no idea who the hell the quarterback's going to be. Callahan should get a pass because you drafted a quarterback number one. Now, here's two other names I'll give you. Zach Taylor. You've got an all-world MVP candidate in Joe Burrow and a bunch of weapons. Your defense has been, you think you rectified that. You did get to the Super Bowl. You get a little bit of wiggle room, but I think now that wiggle room has dissipated. I think there are 8, 9, 10 coaches who are on the hot seat, and it's however we define it. Like some of them have to win now. And if you say, well, what does that mean? 12, 13 wins. If the Giants start Jackson Dart, like this, for the Browns and the Giants fans, I'll save your coach's job right now. I'm going to save your coach's job. If Jackson Dart suits up and plays by week, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if they don't start him 5, Russell Wilson gets 5 to 6 games. Let's say you're not starting him against Eagles or on the road against ever. All right, whatever. Let's just say after 6 or 7 games, the Giants are 2-5, 1-6. Jackson Dart comes in and shows he can lead. They can move the ball. They can score some fights. A lot of life, a little juice, excitement. They win a couple games. They lose a couple games, but they're competitive and they're hanging around. And maybe they have a couple games offensively where they score 25, 28 points, which is rare for the friggin' Giants. And he looks like he can be a franchise quarterback. Brian Daboll, his justification to John Mara and Tisch is, I coach this kid up. Give me another year with him. Give me a full season, which means, okay, I don't want you to come back as another lame duck, so maybe I'll give you 2 years. So now you got 2 years to get it done. If you can't, you're out of a job. Now, that's not how the NFL works, but that's my selling point if I'm Brian Daboll. Because he's already going into the season a lame duck. So you bring him back for one more knowing he's a lame duck again. And then we start that, well, let's see the year 2 progressions. But Jackson Dart only started 6 or 7 games. Is that a handful, enough sample size? You take that same thought and now stick it in Cleveland with Stefanski, who, by the way, has a couple seasons where he's won 10 or more games. Brian Daboll doesn't even have that. But he did go on the road and win a playoff game against Minnesota a couple years ago. So if you're Stefanski, what you're saying is, look, we're going to go with Shador. We're 1-6. Joe's done. Watson's done. Gabriel is a nice, what am I looking at? Very green. Maybe we can develop him a little bit and he can be a viable backup. But Shador gives us the best shot at winning right now. And, Stefanski's not saying this out loud. He's talking to himself. And he's also saying he can also save my job. So now, if they're 1-6 and say Shedeur wins 2 out of 3 starts and they win 4 or 5 games, just like Jackson Dart, and they're playing harder, and you see life in the offense and a little more fire and pep in the step, now Stefanski turns around and says, hey, listen, if there was thought of me being on the hot seat or questions about me coaching these guys up, we won 6. A lot of people thought we won 3 because of our backup situation. Plus, we got this kid meaningful reps. Give me another season with him. Give me another season. Now, the reason that Stefanski takes some heat is because he also had to sign off on who? Deshaun Watson. Whether, it's fair or foul, had to have input on that. Had to. And like I said, you got a $130 million quarterback. It's a nuclear option, man. Because this dude is never playing again for the Cleveland Browns. Never. But he's sitting there collecting the cash, but never, ever, ever playing again for the Cleveland Browns. They're not throwing him out there. Nope. They're not. But the head coach had to also sign off on this. He had to give his thoughts. He had to. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. He's not the same quarterback. He's never going to be the same quarterback. He's just not. So there are 2 paths to saving the jobs if you're Stefanski and you're Brian Daboll. Steichen, I think, is just in a bad spot because, Anthony Richardson is not healthy. Daniel Jones is such an enigma. Zach Taylor, you have an MVP, and Joe Burrow, you should be a perennial playoff team contending for an AFC championship with those offensive weapons and that quarterback. And then, like I said, the rest, you kind of throw a dart at him, see where it lands, right? All right, last time out, we'll come back, we'll close it out.
Hidden in an abandoned campground in South Jersey lies a mystical encounter with booze and spirits, where bonfires burn, shadows dance, and flavor favors the bold. Ghosts, ghouls, goblins, grown-ups, it's time to reclaim Halloween. This is Witchcraft, October 10th and 11th. For tickets and information, visit witchcraftnj.com.
This is what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlantic County is rich.
All right, no plays on this Monday, but back your play later on the week. No show tomorrow. We'll do a power hour on Wednesday. We'll give you the schedule going forward for middays. We got some show announcements to make prior to the NFL season. Appreciate everyone keeping us locked in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on X at RichQ, IG at RichQ, and of course, YouTube channel at RichQ, TikTok RichQ and Mike. Excellent job with the comments. You guys are fantastic. If I didn't get to you on X, I apologize for that. I know I missed a couple boxing contests in here as well, but BYP later on in the week, power hours the rest of the week as well on the YouTube channel. You guys have a wonderful Sports Monday. You've been tuning in to Middays with Q right here on my YouTube channel as well as TriX57. As always, I'm Rich Quiñones. Be safe, be sound. Have a great Monday. Hasta luego, my dia.